You are going to die. Lord bless you and keep you. Lord make his face shine on you, be gracious to you. We'll save that for the end, okay. Well, hey, this is how it goes, isn't it right, Gail? Like this is one of those things that we don't like to talk about often because, death, we all know it happens though, but we shove it away into corners. We have little hospice areas where people go at the end, and when somebody dies, very few people see dead bodies anymore. Whereas, again, think back 100 years or 200 years and the entirety of human history, it was something you couldn't escape at all. Yet in our society, we kind of have this aversion toward it. There's this thing that would happen in Rome where when a general would return back into Rome upon victory, he would go there and they would throw this big parade and there'd be laurels and all sorts of things that they're giving him. And it said that they would have a slave stand behind the Roman general and say the simple Latin phrase, what is it? Memento mori. Memento mori. Remember, you too are mortal. Even when you might feel like you are a god in a literal sense, remember, you too are mortal. Not just in ancient Rome, but in a little bit later beyond that, there were the Stoics that would write. You got Seneca, you got Marcus Aurelius, and they would say things all the time about life and how short life is and how you have to prioritize things. And actually, they make a pretty good point. Marcus Aurelius wrote this. He said, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Which is not bad advice coming from a guy that was married to his stepsister, who is also his first cousin, by the way. That's how they did things. Okay, glad it's changed. Christians ran into this all the time as well. Christians, especially in the medieval period, there's an entire style of art called vanitas art, which is vanity art, which comes from chapter 1 of Ecclesiastes, which is vanity of vanities, or as we talked about a few weeks ago, meaningless, everything is meaningless. And vanitas art is characterized, you've probably seen these, there's skulls, or there's a wilting flower in the background, or an hourglass where most of the sand is on the bottom and not on the top. And it was done as a way of reminding that, yes, you too are mortal. Memento mortis, remember, you too are mortal. You are going to die. What I love about our scriptures is that when you hear this kind of stuff, it's not just like, some Stoics advice, or it's not just something you got out of the Roman Republic. This is something that predates that by hundreds of years. Our scriptures talk about this well before Rome even existed. Our scriptures tell us, and this is what I love about the Bible, is that whatever it is you're going through, however great it might be and flowery and wow, isn't life amazing, or however dark and dire your situation may be today, the Bible has something to say about that. And the Bible looks at that, Scripture looks at that unflinchingly and says, yes, that too, that's a part of this. Let's talk about it. So you have to wrestle with this. Well, what does this mean? What does it mean to be somebody who is mortal? What does it mean to be somebody who dies? And what do I even do with this in the first place? In Ecclesiastes, as we talked about like in the last few weeks, it's about finding reality, because reality is just reality. And you can gripe about reality, but at the end of the day, it's like gravity. You can complain about it, but when you're standing on the edge of a cliff, you might want to respect it, right? Like, what happens if you try to ignore reality. And I want to be somebody who's good at living in reality, because fairyland or fantasy land is for Cinderella and people that think Texas has the best barbecue. We don't want to live there, okay? We want to live in reality with like good food and other things that bring us joy. And so because we want to live in reality, we have to talk about this. And we have to talk about this in a way that helps us understand not just what death is, but in a way that helps us understand the opposite of that, which is life. How do we live in light of the fact that death is there? Whether you got 90 minutes or 90 days or 90 years, death is around the corner for each of us. So hundreds of years before Romans had generals standing before people with whispers behind them, and hundreds of years before, maybe even about 1,000 years before Marcus Aurelius and other Stoics were writing the things that they were writing, this is written in Ecclesiastes chapter 9. Because for the first 8 chapters, they're kind of circling around this big idea. And then in chapter 9, our teacher Kohelet, he lets us know, he says this in verse 2, all share a common destiny. Every single person that is in this room, every single person who has ever been in this room, or really any room ever, has the common destiny. The righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices, those who do not. Everyone dies. Death is so egalitarian. It does not care about your net worth. It doesn't care how many recommendations you have on LinkedIn. It doesn't care about how many prayers you prayed, how long you prayed them, or any of that stuff. Death is our common destiny. Then there's verse 5. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. The living know something, the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. Now, what's important about this actually isn't about the afterlife right here. He's writing from a perspective, and that perspective is life under the sun. So he's saying when you go to a gravestone in the cemetery and you start talking to it, it's kind of a one-way conversation, right? Like they don't have much to tell you back. It's just you to them. They're not speaking back to you. They know nothing. They don't even know their own name. Why? Because under the sun, they're dead. Dead people don't do much. They just kind of lie there and then start decomposing after a while, and that's how it works. But the living know something. Now for us, we fight death all the time. We don't like thinking about it. We try to quarantine it off, put it into certain places, let people that specialize in death, and then the rest of us just kind of go on living as if it's not that important. We live our lives in a way too, so that we could be remembered, so that we could be recognized, and that, the thought of, well, if you died today, would anybody even remember your name? You say, well, I am going to be the one that people remember. I'm going to make sure that people remember who I am. And so I'm going to put my name on this plaque, or, the gravestone, or whatever thing it is. And I'm sure you will be the one that everybody remembers. But let's do this little exercise here. How many of your great-great-grandparents can you name? You have 16 great-great-grandparents. Can anybody name all 16 of their great-great-grandparents? I didn't think so. Now, here's the thing. All of your DNA, like everything that is you from a biological component, you owe to those 16 people. Like, you could probably name a lot more presidents. You could probably name a lot of football players. You could probably name a lot of different kinds of things. But you can't even name the 16 people that you owe all of your existence to. Because every 100 years or so, the names get forgotten. They're less important. It's not that they're bad. It's not a judgment call. This is just what happens. You can't know everybody all the time. And when we fight back against death, we're fighting back against something that we know is coming no matter what. But looking at the first part of that verse in verse 5, for the living know that they will die. The dead know nothing, but the living know that they will die. When you are alive, you have an advantage. You can know things. You can do things. And with that knowledge, it gives you kind of a trajectory of asking that question, okay, since I know that there is an end, and I have not gotten there yet because I'm looking around and I don't think that anybody here has gotten there yet. Okay, you're good for now, this moment. What do you do with that knowledge? And what the writer of Ecclesiastes is kind of asking us to do is wrestle with that. What do you do with the knowledge of your death? Under the sun, the dead cannot love anyone. The truth of that, though, changes how you live. The dead can't forgive. The dead can't call somebody on the phone. The dead can't do any of those things, but you can. You can get somebody on the phone. You can forgive. You can love. You can take care of. You can do these things. Because you know the clock is running, you know that you have a job. Verse 4 says, anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. Dogs weren't beloved pets like they might be in your house today, like ours. Ours is not terribly beloved right now. He's discovered getting into trash cans. We're not a fan of him. So we'll just say we have a dog. But you might like your dog. And in ancient times, you wouldn't like a dog. They were just kind of mangy things that ran around, scavengers. Lions were royalty. Lions are great. So what he's saying is it's better to be kind of a scavenger, mangy thing that can still make decisions and live your life than it is to be dead royalty. You have the ability to act. And the people that waste their lives are the ones that pretend as if they're never going to die. We don't want to waste our lives. We want to live in reality. We want to live in truth. The truth is this, and pay close attention. I'm going to read a couple of verses here, the next section. Every single thing that I'm about to read is something you can do today. So here is kind of the answer. Well, what do you do? Okay, now I know I'm going to die. Okay, go. Eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart. God has already approved what you do. Always be clothed in white and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun. All your meaningless days. For this is your lot in life, and in your toilsome labor under the sun. Whew. Okay, go and enjoy. Give your life. Live your life. There's a guy that I've been watching the last 7 or 8 months. His name's Ben Sasse. I don't know if you guys have seen Ben Sasse, any of his interviews. He's a former U.S. Senator, University of Florida president, kind of a big name guy when it comes to politics, education, written books, went to Yale, very accomplished, okay? And he last year was training for a triathlon, which is all you need to know about how sick and messed up that is. Like, who chooses to do something like that? But he's training for a triathlon. His back started hurting. It wasn't getting any better. PT wasn't helping him get any better. So he goes to the doctor. They run some scans. December of last year, he's 53 or 54 years old at the time. So he's not that old. Kid's still at home. Doctor tells him, you have 3 months to live. It's not just pancreatic cancer. It's everywhere. And it's over. So Ben Sasse, being this guy that very much lives in the public sphere, he decides to go and start doing interviews. And you might have seen him on 60 Minutes. You might have heard him on NPR. I saw him in an interview, and we're going to show a little bit of it here in a moment with the New York Times op-ed writer Ross Douthat. And just a fantastic interview. In fact, I just heard, because I was telling somebody this morning, that apparently he's on CNN tonight. Some sort of an interview tonight where his wife's going to be involved too. So if you're curious about it, you can tell he has outlived a 3-month prognosis, but he also knows that is grace. That is a gift. He's not expecting to get through this. So what I want you to do is we're going to watch bit of the interview that they have that Ross Douthat did with him. And you're going to notice a couple things. First off, he's been doing a lot of experimental medications. And so in this interview, his face looks bad. It's bloody and it's red and it's kind of messed up, and that's a side effect of the meds that he is on. But what he says and how he shares, I just want you to focus in on that too. But then the other side is this. Here's what I want you to be asking yourself. Does Ben Sasse, does he seem like he's optimistic, or does he seem like he's hopeful? Is he optimistic, or is he hopeful? And I want you to kind of, even as you watch and as you listen, wrestle with that a little bit, all right? So let's check out the video.
Tell me a little bit about the diagnosis and how you ended up where you are right now.
So I have pancreatic cancer, stage 4, already metastasized. They told me right away on day 1, this is not operable. You're way post-surgical. They told me over the course of the next couple of days that I already have 5 forms of cancer: lymphoma, vascular, lung cancer, bad liver cancer, and pancreatic, where it originated. So it was pretty clear that we're dealing with a short number of months left to live.
Yeah, you look terrible.
Thank you.
How does your face and skin feel?
Nuclear.
Yeah, okay.
Like when you
burning,
yeah,
bubbling?
Yeah, I'm in a pharmacy every day, right? Like I'm keeping a lot of that industry employed right now. There's the drop-off part, and then there's the pickup part, but there's that little like weird curtain in the corner that says consult. I always figured that was just a place to talk about STDs. Like, I didn't know what it was, but I just figured they called you over there if there was like some section.
An unusual wart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's something growing here that I don't know how to make sense of. I had a pharmacist call me over there the other day, and she pulls the curtain. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, do I got another problem I don't even know about? And she leans in and she said, "Did they do something electrical to you?" I don't even know what that is, but either acid or electric shocks produce a face that looks this hideous.
Well, you told her that you'd gotten on the wrong side of like 6 different mafias,
exactly.
And they'd all taken turns.
I said, listen, I was at the local Walmart, and they're going to have to get a handle on all those kids with the bowls of acid running around in the aisles. I'm a victim.
On the, front of having something like this change how you think about your own priorities, is there advice that you would give to someone who is, the Ben Sasse father of 3 at age 40 or age 35 when the kids are young and everything's stressful and chaotic in light of where you are now?
Happy to go fire hose on this one. Number 1, honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. Man, I wish I'd treated the Lord's Day differently over the course of my life. I've always known it, believed in it, and thought, maybe next week we'll get better at we've been at Sunday worship every morning forever, but man, am I tempted by 12:45 or 1:30 in the afternoon to get back to work or to an addictive level work about the NFL. Boy, I would treat Sabbaths differently, and especially digital intrusions into the Sabbath. Dinner time is precious. Man, lock up your devices and keep them away from the table and prioritize that time. There is a limit to how many trips a month are really worth it. I lived a road warrior life for a long time, and I kind of had a rule of thumb that 7 nights a month in a hotel was the ceiling. But boy, there's a difference between 7 and 9, and there's a difference between 7 and 5, and I took way, 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 way too many trips.
That might be convicting for the man interviewing you, but go on.
Family compounds, have more cousins and figure out how to live thick with them. There's so many times when we optimize around things that are not nearly as important as more family thickness. Boy, I wish we lived down the block from my folks.
I assume you've prayed for healing?
Yes, sir.
Not to be the guy who just beats the odds, but to be the miracle story, right? God hasn't answered those prayers yet. Are you angry at God ever?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Real quick right there, he says this, and I think he means it. He says, I'm not angry with God. And you hear that, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so nice and gathered and mature. I just want to give you this caveat. If you pick up your Bibles and read it, your Bible will be chocked full of people, all but yelling, but there are people yelling at God, okay? The Bible has a lot of that baked into it, and that is considered a holy place, just as holy of a place as saying, I'm okay with whatever comes my way. My point is that you can be like Ben Sass, where you say, hey, this is okay, this is my lot, all right? I don't like it. I'm sure there's lots of tears and mourning going on throughout the whole process for them too, but I accept it. You can yell and you can kick and you can punch and you can do all that too, and God is still okay with that. Neither one is right, neither one is wrong. Both of them can be holy ground, okay? So I just wanted to give that little caveat so that when you're watching this, you're not thinking, well, therefore I just have to be grateful the moment I get that diagnosis, or I just have to accept the fact when something terrible and tragic happens in your life. You don't. You can wrestle with that, and that's very much a part of our faith too. So we got a couple minutes left. We'll watch the rest of the interview here.
And this suffering is not salvific, but it's sanctifying, and I'm grateful for it. Tim Keller, who I know you knew, who's in my denomination, a Presbyterian pastor in New York who also died of pancreatic cancer, said, I hate pancreatic cancer. I would never wish it on anyone, but I would never want to go back to a time in my life where I didn't know the prayer of pancreatic cancer, meaning I now, in the midst of this disease, know much more the truth of my finitude than I ever let myself believe in the past. The hubristic nonsense that I was actually, I believe in God and grateful and blessed, but I can build a storehouse that can be pretty deistically persuasive. My storehouse can have enough resources that I can operate without a need, but that's not true. I can't keep the planets in orbit. I can't even grow skin on my face.
For the listener or viewer who, whether for Ehrman's reasons or others, doesn't believe in God, right? And finds your cosmic optimism admirable, but maybe thinks that you're deluding yourself on the brink of actual finitude. What would you say to that person?
There are lots of intellectual arguments you can make against God, but you kind of have to start with a fundamental question about what do you do with this moral issue of our own conscience? And does the individual in your hypothetical really start with the claim that things are right in your soul? Because I can't relate to that. Things are not right in my soul. My soul thinks Ben should be God, and I want that to die. Cancer sucks, but I'm pretty grateful that cancer is a stake against my delusional self-idolatry.
Do you think you're ready to die? Do you feel ready?
I don't feel ready, but to whom would I go? I have confidence that when Jesus says to the disciples, he didn't want to be identified as the Messiah yet. Keep these crowds away. Don't tell about the water into wine miracle at the feast. How amazing is it that Jesus' first miracle is a big ass party? Let's drink more together. But he says, you can't keep the children from me. And we're told that we get to approach the Almighty. We get to approach the divine and call him Daddy, Abba Father. That's pretty glorious. And I know that that's what I need.
Ben, sorry.
Happy to get him to open up a can of pins.
You got me at the end. Got me. Ben Sass, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
We have a guy who is dying in public. And you hear that, and it's just this kind of odd thing, because, again, we often push this stuff aside. Yet the word that he has for us is pretty simple. Of course, valuing the right things. What I think Ecclesiastes would say, go, eat your food, drink your wine, love your spouse, be together. But as he talks, there's two things that sound similar, and I think we conflate them at our own peril here. There's optimism, which says that it's going to be okay. Tomorrow is going to be better than today. Why? Because I believe it. Okay. Then there's hope, which says, even if I get sick, even if I fail, and everybody around me calls me a failure, even if things do not work out the way I wanted them or the way that I foresaw my life going, even if, my trust is that there's something not under the sun, but something beyond that. Because under the sun, optimism evaporates. It becomes nothing. It's useless. It's not helpful at all. But hope doesn't come from under the sun. It comes from something well beyond it. There's a quote by a Czech dissident and ended up becoming president, Václav Havel, said this. He said, the more unpropitious the situation in which we demonstrate hope. So the worse the situation is that you demonstrate hope, the deeper that hope is. Hope is not the same thing as optimism. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but it's the certainty that something makes sense regardless of how it turns out. We don't care about optimism. That's fine. That can be helpful for a moment. But we also know that the time is short and that if you want to have a life and have it to the full, length is not the point. Meaning is the point. How do you live a meaningful life? Hope comes from far beyond the sun. So we're going to sing a song in the moment. You're going to be able to reflect on it. We sang it the first week, I think. But here's what I want you to consider as these words, as this music kind of goes into the space here. If my life really is a vapor, if it really is vapor, what am I doing with it today? Not what are your plans for later in the week. Not what do you think you'll do even later tonight. What are you doing with your life today? Like right now, what is the plan? If everything goes away so fast, how are you making that meaning now? What are you doing with your life